Most people spend their entire lives chasing money, yet never truly understand how it works. They grind, they save, they sacrifice, only to end up with just enough to survive, not enough to live freely. It's not because they're not smart or not hardworking. It's because they're playing a game they were never taught the rules for. And in this world, if you don't understand the game, you are the game. Today, I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. I'm here to wake you up to a reality that 95% of people will never face. Because once you understand it, you can never go back to living the same way again. Most people live their lives believing that hard work alone is the passport to wealth. They wake up, go to work, come home, pay their bills, and repeat the cycle for decades. They tell themselves that one day, if they just stay loyal, stay dedicated, and avoid risk, life will reward them. But here's the harsh truth. The world doesn't operate based on how hard you work. It operates based on how much value you bring and how effectively you deploy capital. Wealth is not distributed evenly, and it never will be. The top 5% of people understand money in a fundamentally different way from the other 95%. They don't see money as something you earn and store. They see it as a tool, an engine that multiplies when used intelligently. The bottom 95% are stuck in a system built to keep them doing all the work, while the ownership and the real wealth flows upward. They're trapped not because they're not smart or capable, but because they're playing a game they never truly learned the rules for. From an early age, most people are conditioned to follow a path that was designed in the industrial age: go to school, get good grades, find a stable job, work hard, retire with whatever's left. But in a rapidly changing global economy that rewards innovation, creativity, and leverage, that path is dangerously outdated. Labor alone isn't enough anymore. If your only source of income is your time, you're capped. And time, unlike capital, doesn't compound. The 95% spend their lives trading time for money, while the top 5% spend their money buying time. The wealthy invest in assets that work for them: businesses, stocks, real estate, intellectual property, while most people invest in liabilities, or worse, don't invest at all. They're too busy trying to save money, not realizing that in an inflationary world, saving is almost the same as losing. You can't save your way to wealth. You have to invest your way there. Another big divide is emotional. Most people are controlled by fear. Fear of losing, fear of stepping outside the norm, fear of failing publicly. The wealthy understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a component of it. They don't fear mistakes. They study them, learn from them, and aggressively iterate. Meanwhile, the majority seek comfort, routine, and security, not realizing they're trading their freedom for temporary stability. There's a psychological shift that has to occur for someone to move from the 95% to the 5%. It's the shift from being a participant in the system to being a designer of systems. Wealth isn't just about what you can produce yourself. It's about creating mechanisms that continue working with or without you. That requires thinking in terms of principles, patterns, and leverage. The wealthy follow principles that guide their thinking, allowing them to make reliable decisions in unpredictable environments. What's often missed is that wealth isn't just about money. It's about power, choices, and peace of mind. It's a product of understanding how the world works, recognizing patterns, and aligning your decisions with reality, not with fantasy. The 95% don't fail because they're lazy or unwilling. They fail because they operate on assumptions instead of principles, on emotion instead of truth. There's no conspiracy. There's no secret club locking people out. There's just a set of cause and effect relationships that are either learned and used or ignored and suffered. Life doesn't care about your intentions. It responds to your actions. And if you're not taking actions that compound over time, then you're compounding your disadvantage. The good news is that the gap is bridgeable. The bad news is that it requires confronting uncomfortable truths, breaking free from limiting beliefs, and embracing risk in a meaningful way. If you want to build real wealth, you can't afford to think like the 95%. You have to stop asking for permission, stop waiting for guarantees, and start owning your decisions. The reality is brutal, but it's also liberating in a world of endless opportunity. The only thing holding most people back is the mindset they refuse to change. If you want a different outcome, you need a different operating system, because in this game, the rules aren't written on the walls, they're written in the results. Most people spend over a decade in school, yet they graduate without understanding the single most important skill needed to navigate life: how money works. It's astonishing, but it's also intentional. The system wasn't built to make you financially free. It was built to make you functional. You're trained to memorize facts, follow orders, and perform tasks, but not to question the game itself. And that's exactly why financial education is not part of the core curriculum. Let's be clear, financial illiteracy is not just a personal shortcoming, it's a structural flaw. It's the reason why most people live paycheck to paycheck, why debt is normalized, and why financial anxiety is an everyday reality. People are told to work hard, get a job, save what's left, and hope it's enough. But hope is not a strategy. Ignorance is costly, and in the absence of real financial knowledge, people fall into traps set by those who do understand the rules. The lack of financial education creates two types of people: those who work for money and those who have money work for them. The first group trades time for income. The second builds systems that generate income regardless of their time. The difference isn't intelligence or opportunity. It's education. It's knowing what money really is, how it moves, how to protect it, and how to expand it. Without this knowledge, people are like players in a game who don't understand the rules, and in any game, the ignorant are exploited by the informed. Money is not complicated, but it's deliberately made to appear that way. The language of finance, interest rates, debt instruments, equity, inflation is a barrier for most. And so they avoid it. But avoidance never leads to freedom. It leads to dependence. When you don't control your money, someone else does. And the world is full of institutions ready to help. You manage your money, for a small fee, of course. Banks, credit card companies, lenders, they thrive on your lack of knowledge. Consider this: most people know how to calculate the area of a triangle, but they don't know how compound interest can either build their wealth or destroy it. They're taught about the Civil War, but not about how to navigate a financial crisis. They learn to write essays, but not to read the fine print on a mortgage. And so, they make decisions that lock them into cycles of debt and dependency. The wealthy don't just have more money. They have more knowledge. They understand leverage. They understand diversification. They understand that money is a tool, not a goal. They think in terms of assets and liabilities, cash flow and opportunity cost. They see the world through the lens of return on investment, not hours worked. And because they understand these principles, they can achieve exponential growth. Meanwhile, the rest are stuck with linear progress at best. What's missing is not intelligence or desire. What's missing is principled understanding. Financial education isn't about getting rich quick. It's about mastering cause and effect. It's about knowing that every dollar you earn, save, or invest has a job. And if you don't assign that job consciously, the world will assign it for you. People don't realize they're already in the game from the moment they earn, borrow, or spend. The only question is whether they're playing to win or playing without knowing the rules. Financial education also requires emotional mastery. It's not just math, it's mindset. It's the willingness to confront fear, to stay disciplined, to think long, term in a culture obsessed with instant gratification. It's understanding that financial freedom doesn't come from what you earn. It comes from what you keep and grow. It means building habits that the average person finds too inconvenient, but which compound into results that the average person only dreams about. There's a shift happening. Access to financial knowledge has never been easier. Yet the gap between the financially literate and the illiterate is widening, not because of lack of resources, but because of lack of initiative. The question is no longer, can you learn this, but will you? The truth is, financial ignorance is a choice now, and like all choices, it has consequences. The world doesn't wait. Inflation doesn't pause. Debt doesn't sleep. If you don't get serious about financial knowledge, you're not standing still, you're falling behind. The sooner you learn, the sooner you can break free from the invisible chains of the system and start operating on your own terms. The power has always been in your hands. The question is, will you learn how to use it? The bridge between where you are and where you want to be is rarely physical. It's not the lack of opportunity, resources, or luck that stops most people. It's the emotional barriers they allow to control them. The inner world determines the outer world far more than people want to admit. Fear, ego, complacency. These are the chains that keep 95% of people stuck, no matter how much potential they have. Most people don't fail because they can't. They fail because they won't. They won't step into discomfort, won't risk failing, and won't shatter the stories they've told themselves for years. The biggest obstacle to success is not the economy, not competition, not your background. It's the emotional wiring that keeps you from acting on what you already know. Take fear, for example. Fear is a powerful emotion, rooted deeply in biology. It has its purpose, keeping us alive in a dangerous world. But in the modern world, that same conditioning sabotages growth. People fear rejection, embarrassment, and uncertainty. They fear losing what little they have more than they desire the abundance they could create. So they settle. They stay in their comfort zones, surrounded by predictability, and call it security. But in reality, that security is an illusion. The ground beneath them is shifting, and they're standing still. Success requires stepping into the unknown, not recklessly, but courageously. It demands learning to manage emotions rather than being ruled by them. It's about recognizing that discomfort is not danger. In fact, discomfort is often the signal that you're moving in the right direction. Growth doesn't come from repeating what you've already mastered. It comes from confronting what you fear. Then there's ego. Ego is one of the most insidious barriers. People want to be right more than they want to learn. They hold on to their beliefs, even when those beliefs hold them back. They avoid feedback, avoid truth, and surround themselves with people who affirm their comfort instead of challenging their potential. Ego resists change because change requires admitting that you don't have everything figured out. Without humility, there can be no growth. You can't fill a cup that's already full. Another emotional barrier that keeps people stuck is the addiction to comfort. Humans are hardwired to seek ease and avoid pain. But the irony is, avoiding short-term discomfort often guarantees long-term pain. Those who succeed understand that success is rarely convenient. It requires sacrifice, discipline, and consistency. It requires waking up when others are sleeping, learning when others are entertaining themselves, and delaying gratification while others indulge. But the reward is worth it because freedom is born from discipline, not from comfort. It's also important to recognize the role of emotional resilience. Success isn't a straight line, it's messy. You will fail, you will be misunderstood, you will make costly mistakes. Most people can't bear that. They confuse a single failure with a final defeat. They take setbacks personally, instead of recognizing them as necessary steps in the journey. But those who dominate their fields understand that every setback carries a lesson. They don't crumble under pressure. They adapt. They don't react emotionally. They respond deliberately. Emotional mastery doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means understanding them, managing them, and aligning them with your goals. It means developing an inner calm that isn't shaken by external chaos. When you control your emotions, you control your actions. And when you control your actions, you control your outcomes. That's the real power. The power to respond to life's challenges from a place of clarity, not fear. What separates those who win from those who wish isn't intelligence or opportunity. It's mindset. It's the ability to do what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. It's the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, to burn your excuses, and to put purpose before emotion. It's choosing growth over gratification, principles over pride, and courage over comfort. Life rewards those who confront their inner barriers. It punishes those who run from them. If you don't master your emotions will master you. And that's a battle you'll never win. The world doesn't bend to what you want. It bends to who you become. And who you become is shaped, first and foremost, by what you're willing to face within yourself. Success isn't accidental. It's not a product of luck, talent, or even hard work alone. It's the result of having clearly defined principles and building systems that consistently produce the results you want. Most people operate reactively, making decisions based on emotion, circumstance, or habit. But those who win in life play a different game. They design it. They use principles as the foundation and systems as the execution. And that's why they succeed predictably, while others succeed occasionally or not at all. Principles are the timeless truths that guide decision-making. They're the underlying logic behind every action you take. When you operate without principles, you're tossed around by life's randomness, like a ship without a compass. You react, you adjust, you guess, but you don't steer. With principles, you develop clarity. You know why you're doing what you're doing. You can evaluate decisions not based on how you feel in the moment, but based on whether they align with the truths you've chosen to live by. A principle is not just a belief, it's a filter. It helps you cut through noise. For example, pain plus reflection equals progress isn't just a motivational idea, it's a principle. It tells you how to respond to setbacks. Instead of avoiding discomfort, you lean into it, reflect, and extract the lesson. Without principles like that, pain becomes something to escape rather than something to learn from. But principles alone are not enough. You need systems, repeatable processes that turn principles into results. A system takes the guesswork out of execution. It transforms intention into action. When you have a system for investing, a system for learning, a system for managing your time, you're no longer relying on willpower or inspiration. You're relying on structure. The wealthy don't work harder, they work smarter. And their systems are the reason why. A system is a way of doing something that produces consistent results. It's predictable, it's measurable, it's adjustable. If something doesn't work, you don't panic, you refine the system. Most people live in chaos. They wake up every day and make the same decisions, trapped in the illusion of control. But real control comes from systems that run regardless of mood, distraction, or setback. Without systems, motivation fades. Emotion takes over. You may have a good day or a good week, but it's not sustainable. Think about physical fitness. If you decide to try and get healthier, but you don't build a system, a workout routine, a meal plan, a tracking habit, you may get bursts of progress, but eventually you'll fall back into old patterns. Systems eliminate the need for willpower. They create an environment where doing the right thing becomes automatic. The real power of systems lies in leverage. When you build a system, you're essentially creating a machine. And machines don't get tired, distracted, or emotional. They produce. The difference between people who struggle and people who excel isn't the number of hours in their day. It's how much their systems multiply their efforts. 1 hour placed in the right system can create the output of 10. Principles help you think clearly. Systems help you act effectively. But they also do something even more important: they compound. Every iteration of a system, every time it's refined based on results, makes it more powerful. Every time you live by your principles instead of your impulses, your identity becomes stronger, your confidence becomes deeper, and your outcomes become more predictable. Most people resist systems because they value freedom, but freedom without structure leads to chaos. True freedom comes from discipline, because discipline builds systems that allow you to achieve what you want without needing constant effort. When your life runs on systems aligned with your principles, you're freed from decision fatigue. You're freed from inconsistency. You're freed from the cycle of starting and stopping. Life becomes more manageable when you realize that it's a series of repeatable patterns. Everything you want, wealth, health, mastery, is the byproduct of consistent action driven by well-designed systems. Principles reveal the path, systems pave it, and discipline walks it. The difference between average and exceptional is simple: one lives by chance, the other by design. If you want to change your life, don't rely on more effort. Rely on better principles and smarter systems. Because when your decisions are grounded in timeless truth and your actions are driven by a reliable process, success isn't a gamble anymore. It's an outcome. The world is changing faster than at any point in human history. Technological revolutions, economic shifts, and geopolitical tensions are reshaping the landscape we live and work in. What worked yesterday won't necessarily work tomorrow. The rules are evolving, and the pace of change is accelerating. In this kind of world, adaptability isn't optional. It's a survival skill. Those who resist change get left behind. Those who embrace it position themselves to thrive. Most people cling to the familiar. They want stability. They want certainty. They want the world to stay the way it was when they formed their identity. But the world doesn't care about your preferences. It doesn't ask for permission. It just changes relentlessly. And if you're not adjusting, you're falling behind. The reality is simple. Life doesn't reward the strongest or the smartest. It rewards the most adaptable. Look at history. Every major shift, whether it was the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, or the digital revolution, created winners and losers. Not because some people were better or smarter, but because some were willing to evolve. They paid attention. They saw where the world was going, not where it had been. They didn't just learn, they unlearned. They let go of what no longer worked, even if it had brought them success in the past. That's one of the hardest things to do: abandon strategies that once worked. Success creates comfort, and comfort breeds stagnation. People get attached to the familiar, and before they realize it, the game has changed. The methods that brought you here won't always take you there. Adaptability requires humility, the willingness to admit that what you know might not be enough for what's coming next. This isn't just about technology, it's about mindset. The most important skill today is the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Traditional education taught people that learning ends when school ends. But in today's world, anyone who stops evolving becomes obsolete. You need to update your thinking the way you update your apps. If you're not constantly upgrading, you're running on outdated code. The changing world also demands a shift in emotional intelligence. In uncertain times, fear and anxiety rise. People retreat. They wait. But uncertainty is not a time to freeze. It's a time to observe, adapt, and act strategically. Those who navigate change well don't let emotion drive their decisions. They use logic. They use data. They stay grounded in principles while adjusting tactics. The workplace is transforming too. The idea of one job, one company, one career path, it's dying. Automation is eliminating roles that once seemed secure, while new industries emerge overnight. The most valuable individuals today aren't just specialists. They're flexible thinkers. They're problem solvers. They're systems thinkers who understand how to pivot when the environment shifts. We're also seeing a changing global order. Power is shifting from west to east. Economic cycles are playing out in ways we've seen throughout history. And if you don't understand these macro forces, you're navigating blind. You don't need to predict the future. You just need to recognize the patterns. History is a map, and those who study it gain an advantage over those who only react to headlines. Adapting to the changing world means embracing lifelong learning, building diverse skill sets, and staying curious. It means not just consuming information, but filtering it, examining it, and applying it. It means accepting that your identity is not fixed. You're not defined by who you were. You're defined by who you're becoming. There's an incredible opportunity hidden inside every disruption, but only for those who can see it. While most people focus on the loss of jobs, loss of stability, the adaptable focus on the leverage. They ask what new skills are needed, what problems are emerging that I can solve, where is value shifting, and how can I position myself there? Adaptability is not about predicting change. It's about preparing for it. It's about creating systems, habits, and mindsets that allow you to pivot quickly. It's waking up each day, knowing that what you learned yesterday might not be enough today. And that's okay, because you're not married to certainty. You're married to progress. The game isn't slowing down. It's speeding up, and the winners will be those who evolve not just with the world, but ahead of it. So ask yourself, are you adapting, or are you holding on to a world that no longer exists? Because in this era, the greatest risk is not change. It's resisting change. Here's the bottom line. Wealth isn't an accident. It's a result. A result of thinking differently, acting deliberately, and refusing to settle for the stories the world feeds you. The 95% stay broke not because they have to, but because they accept the path laid out for them. You don't have to. The world is full of opportunity, but it only reveals itself to those who are awake, aware, and willing to adapt. So ask yourself right now, not tomorrow, not someday, are you ready to step out of the 95% and take control of your future? Or are you still waiting for permission? The choice and the consequence